We are rural women. We are strong. We're ambitious. We're leaders. And we inspire. Some of us are mothers and caregivers, partners, workers and community members, friends. And we don't do it alone. We seek community, connection, and representation of people like us. 100 Rural Women plants that seed. We aim to cultivate a community that empowers rural women and lifts one another up. Welcome to our Spotlight series, where we interview amazing women who are making a difference for rural communities across Minnesota, because we believe that women like you deserve a spotlight. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome everybody back to our Spotlight series today. I have the pleasure of speaking with a woman who is really making a difference and doing some really incredible things. So I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us about you and your background and your connection to rural and anything else you see fit.
Great. Thank you, Alexa. I'm so honored to be here and be asked to be part of this. I think most of us never think of ourselves as being really a leader that should be out in the spotlight. So it's really an honor to be considered for this. My name is Kimberly Gillette, and I have lived in the Red River Valley for 25 years now. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. I grew up actually down in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and moved all over the world. Well, actually, all over the country, growing up, and actually moved to Moorhead from Arizona. So I had moved down to Arizona for a job, had my daughter there, my first daughter, and we decided to be closer to family. So we were looking for positions in Minnesota, came across the one in Moorhead and bumped up here and have called this area our home ever since. And I started my career in higher education, with international education specifically. So I worked with international students, international scholars, international faculty, study abroad, all the whole gamut on the international education field, and really thought that was my calling and what I was going to do for my whole career. But I am here to show people that there is life outside of the career that you once that you knew at the beginning, and thought that's maybe where you were going to end up. And just a myriad of events led me to leaving the university, not just the university that I was at, but also international education in general. And with that, decided to take that opportunity to reinvent myself, to reconsider what I was doing, and forge my way in my career 2.0, I like to call it, the second stage of my career. And really, what prompted me was a few years back, I was talking with some colleagues of mine at the university, and we were talking about what would we do if we left the university? Where would we go? What's out there? That's all we know. That was the career that we had. And so, in doing that, in doing some research and whatnot, decided this was where I was going to be. I was going to help my people find that there is some life outside of academia, if that's what they choose. But in doing so, I have actually opened my services to anybody who's in a spot, who's like mid-careerish and looking for that next thing. We talk about with the kids. We often ask our children or the kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? Who do you want to be when you grow up? We don't do that to adults. And I give adults a safe place to explore that and to think. And many, many, many of my clients have said, I have not thought of that for a really long time. It's really kind of a fun place to be, to have that permission just to dream what else is there, and then help support my clients find that next step. So I like to say I'm a dream champion. So I help them identify their dreams, and then I champion their dreams. And so as they're going through and exploring different options, I always bring them back. So one of the things we do is we identify that dream, and if something comes up and they're thinking of some new avenue, I will always ask them, what is your dream telling you to do? Do you have enough information? Is that going to help support that? So I let's see. So I've been in the Red River Valley, so in rural Minnesota for many years now. I love being so having also grown up down in the Twin Cities area, I will and we still have family there. I will say I love being out in the outer part of Minnesota. There's a different pace of life, a different value set, if you will, in that you have that time. So to be with your family. So, for
Mm.
example, I have some colleagues down or some friends down in the cities, and they talk about their commute being an hour or so. And that commute here, if it was an hour or so, would be like from Minnesota, from Moorhead to Crookston. Um, you can get a
Yeah,
lot farther.
exactly.
And if I really wanted to, and I was, if I really wanted to, I could walk to work.
Hmm.
So there's just that difference and that difference of cadence and that difference of time that you're given more time, I think, here in this area. I really we moved back to this region to raise family here. I think it's a great place to raise family and um, help children. I mean, you can do it in the cities too, but I think there's something fun and unique about being in the rural part, and there's more of a sense of connection to nature and some of the other beauty that Minnesota has.
Mm.
And I stumbled upon 100 Rural Women by taking a class. I took a class through the local Small Business Development Center and got connected with somebody who is active in 100 Rural Women. And so I started popping in on their weekly meetings on Thursdays and highly, highly recommend this connection with others. I can't wait to get more involved, see how else I can be part of the services and the connections that are made through 100 Rural Women. And I will say that I have also invited a few other people to join.
That's awesome. We love that. Um, so do you mostly work with people that are close to you in a rural area, or are you working all over the state?
I
Or
am working,
maybe
yeah,
both.
actually all over the world. I have clients
Oh,
that are in other countries as well. All of our meetings are done via Zoom or phone calls. And so it there is that. I am hoping to get more established into the community here with this business. That's something that I haven't done yet, but I'm hoping 100 Rural Women and some of the other organizations can help me get established here and get my name out here.
what kind of things do you do and services do you offer as a career ownership coach?
Great question. I So as a career ownership coach, really am helping my clients, and we have conversations and we go along and have coaching sessions and identify strengths and weaknesses and goals of my clients, and from there we look at different avenues. So if and goals by goals I'm not talking about like, oh, I want to become a doctor or a lawyer, or I want to do whatever. We talk about lifestyle because at this point in life usually there's a lot of burnout, and oftentimes we refer to it in our business as the battered career syndrome. So they've been working hard for somebody else and maybe not feeling valued or heard, or maybe they're stuck and not finding that next level. They're not trying to figure out how to either elevate their career, or is it time for them to move into a different industry. And with that, we also talk about different avenues. So often we are taught to to go work. I know for me, my dad worked for the same company for his whole entire career. Got out of college, started there, he'd retired from there. And that's what I saw and that's what I know. But there's other avenues of getting to your goals. So if you've got a work lifestyle balance that you want to get to, you want to spend more time with your family, have enough income to be able to go travel, whatever that looks like, we identify that, and then we talk about how you can get there, whether that's through a traditional W-2 job, traditional work sorts of ways. Is it's that portfolio building with stocks and real estate and whatnot? Or is it business ownership? And I love the career ownership coach title because it's taking ownership of your career in a couple of different ways. One, it's saying, all right, it's up to me to define what I want to do and take ownership of my next step. But then also we're looking at business ownership and being that entrepreneur or that business owner. And it opens to see people who hadn't thought of it or maybe had thought of it and hadn't really pursued that or thought much of it, to have them open their eyes to a whole new way of thinking and about themselves and what's possible is just, it's really satisfying for me.
That's
And
incredible. I
and my clients, I tell me that they get stuff out of it. So
Yeah, yeah.
more
Um,
importantly, more
I can
importantly,
already think of a couple people that I could refer to you.
I'm always, and that's ultimately so as a small business owner, um, in this field, I the highest compliment somebody can give me is to give me a referral. And I ultimately would love to build my clientele simply from word of mouth and referrals from others. If I'm doing right by my clients, then they're going to refer me to others. And that's really where I want to be. And there's so many options out there and so many things that just haven't been thought of. And I don't have answers. That's the beauty. I don't have to have answers. I just have lots of questions. And I'm just curious and help guide my clients through some discovery just by asking questions.
Mhm. And sometimes that's what people need.
Mhm.
And my next question for you is how did you go about learning how to start your own business and go on this down this path yourself?
Yeah, great question. So I actually did have a career coach as well. And through that process, learned about, was asked, what would it feel like if you were your own boss? And I can tell you that just that visceral feel of feeling free was amazing. So that really prompted me to go learn more. So I can't say enough about the small business administration, the small business development centers. There's the SCORE mentoring uh, program that's out there that got me connected with a mentor that helped me figure out kind of how to narrow down my niche.
Mhm,
Um, and in doing this, and how to start doing all of those things. And then I did meet with a couple of businesses as well. So there are some businesses out there that actually, as you're looking at funding, for example, can help walk through, how do you figure out funding for your new business? What does that look like? How do you figure that stuff out? And then how do you go about it? So my business actually is set up as a C corp, so a C corporation, but that was based on how I wanted to fund it, and I had people, um, I hired people to help me through that process. It is I'll say it's the scariest thing I've ever done. Signing that paperwork and sending and getting everything set up was the absolute scariest thing I've ever done. I would not change it for the world though. It is it is something that really, there's a great video of Will Smith when he talks about getting ready to jump out of an airplane,
mhm,
parachute out or skydiving for the first time, and just the whole fear of going up to that point. And then once he made the jump, just that feeling of weightlessness and that freedom and whatnot. And that's the only thing I can think of. There's this feeling on the other side of fear that is so worth it.
mm,
And that brings me to, so one of the things that, at 211 degrees, water is just hot water. At 212 degrees, it turns into steam. So what
Mm,
happens if you're at that 211 point and you turn around and say, what if you just pushed forward that last little bit and you became
mm.
incredible and became this steam and you could power things and do so much.
I love that. That is a really, really encouraging way to look at it. Um, and that brings me to my next question of, that point where maybe somebody might want to turn around or it's just getting too hard. Can you tell us about a time that was discouraging and how you overcame it?
Yes, I was thinking about this, and there are so many stories, so many times that this could be. And I would say probably I'm going to get personal here. I dealt with some mental illness during some of the stuff. And in that, I was very, very depressed, got very, very depressed, and was really struggling. And after having a career for 26 years, which I thought was going to be where I was going to retire from, to have that all of a sudden not be in that space was really hard. And so my whole identity, without realizing it, my whole identity was built into that. And so trying to detangle my identity from my career to reinvent myself was really hard. And took it took everybody around me. The biggest thing I would say is that it's okay to ask for help, and you need to, whether that is from a partner, from your children, from a family member, any family member or neighbor or a doctor, getting into a therapist, whatever. It is so important to be open and say, "Hey, this I'm struggling. I don't know where to go from here." And if it weren't for my team, I call them my team. So um, I actually call them my emotional board of directors. So these are the people that help me and support me. And it's changed. It looks much different now than it did a year ago because I'm in a different space now. And
Mhm.
I have come through, I've battled a lot and I have come through and I'm um, so much more stronger. So much I'm stronger now. And so some of the people that were on my team before, I don't see them. I don't need to, but the other ones are there. And so really leaning on family and friends. And I will say too, in some of the work that I do and some of my clients that I'm working with, I think I'm part of theirs as well.
Mhm. Of course.
And giving them that support and that place, especially when my clients have been laid off and they never saw it coming, or something has happened, or they're feeling really just unseen or unheard in their workspace. There's a lot of there's a lot of hurt that comes with that. And just being I'm not a therapist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor.
Mhm.
But just being another place that they can be vulnerable and tell me what's going on, and we can then envision the future. So I also feel like I'm a hope dealer. Not
Mhm.
dope. No, hope.
That's I like those little phrases that you've kinda coined. That is so important to be talking about, and, we're seeing it a bit more that people are being open about those things, but that's kind of a piece that, um, is a really big part of starting a new career, is
It
that
is.
that emotional, mental part, and, I mean, starting anything new or making some type of big life change, and that, it's okay to not do it all on your own.
Definitely, definitely. It's okay to not do it on your own. It's okay to reach out, and I think it's a huge sign of strength, even though it's hard for us to do, to ask for that help.
Mhm. And that's another thing that, you're providing as a service, and I mean,
Mhm.
I wanna be very
Not
careful.
the not
Not
the
a
not the
therapist,
counseling part of it, right? But
yeah,
just another
but
another
being somebody that's in, that team for people that can
right.
help them maybe point them in the right direction or, just help them
Right.
get started
Hmm.
and get them to that 12th,
That
223.
200, and having been through it and having lived that and experienced it, I understand, definitely understand.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that I think that's a big thing. I think that's a big gift I can give to people.
I think so too. Uh, so in looking back and in reflection, if you could give a piece of advice to your former self, what would that be?
I would say don't be afraid. Why did you wait so long?
Mm.
So some of these things, like doing this, I wish I would have known this stuff earlier. Known about the ability and how to start a business. And if I would have known it earlier in life, I think I would have done it a lot earlier in life.
Mm,
And don't let don't let others squash your dreams. They may have good intentions. Like your family, if you're sharing something and they say, "Oh, what about this? What about that? Whatever." They're coming from a place of love and concern, but they don't know everything and they
mhm,
don't know what you know. And so don't feed into that fear. Um, go and learn. Just learn. Be curious and learn and get the facts.
mm. Um, yeah, that's so helpful for me to know too. I mean, something about these interviews that's really wonderful is that um I get so much out of them. I kind of selfishly, right? I love my job. uh,
Right.
but something that we're seeing a lot with people my age that I really resonate with is I don't see myself doing the exact same career until I
Right.
retire.
Right.
Um, whenever that may be. And that's a huge shift from what was
Hmm.
traditionally. I mean, when people were asking, "What do you wanna do?" It was, "You've got this one thing, what do you wanna do?" Whereas for me, it
Right.
feels like I could do a million things before I retire. So, that's why your coaching and your business is so important because those things are also new. That
Hmm.
idea of you don't have to do the exact same thing your whole career.
Definitely, there's that shift, the mind shift in how many jobs or how many careers or how many, not even just like staying in the same industry, but shifting complete industries,
Mhm,
is definitely something that's coming out now, and being able to pivot and change is important, and to be able to have that mindset and know that you can do it.
mhm,
Know that you can do it.
yeah. So, I had another question for you. I feel like
Okay.
it's kind of answered just in what you do, but my question was how do you lead and create change in your community, and how can your community better support rural women in your
That's that is a fantastic question. Um, I have a mission statement, and it is through my everyday actions, I inspire and guide others to be compassionate, kind, and caring, and non judgmental in their relationships with others while exhibiting integrity in their personal and professional life, thus creating an inclusive and welcoming society.
Mm,
That is how I'm hoping that I'm creating change in my community, through that servant leadership and through that power of example, and inspiring, hopefully I'm inspiring others to do the same, and inspiring others to be who they can be. And then there was another part of that question. What else can we do to help women?
yeah,
I
how
think,
can your
yeah,
community better support rural women? Are there things that you have in mind?
that is a great question, and I don't have an answer. I don't have an answer to that. I do know that there is a in rural Minnesota, we don't have the same access to there is an opportunity gap in education and in opportunities. but we at the same time also there's not as many resources, and there's not the enough people. I don't know how to say that at the moment, to maybe make some of these changes, or to have fight for some of these resources that are out there. So how do we then determine and come together and figure out how do we support each other? I've always felt though that we are as good, that a rising tide raises all ships. So we're only as good as those that are the least among us. So we need to
Mhm.
support. If we have to prioritize, how do we support those that have the least and need the most? How do we support them to augment their station in life so that we're all better for that? And I
Mhm.
don't have answers. I just have questions.
But questions are what we need first,
Mhm.
and thoughts about what's needed before there's a solution that can be made. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the reason I ask that, is because of our mission as 100
Right.
Rural Women. We want to know how we can better be supporting people, and of course, we're a small team, so
Right.
and not all of us are located in rural Minnesota. We've expanded a bit, so we
Right.
need to hear from people, what are you seeing? What could you use? And that's where that really comes in. So
Mhm.
it's not necessarily so that you have to create the solution, but more, maybe I should change the wording of the question, um,
No,
to
that makes sense
something
though.
closer
Yeah.
to what do you see your community is in need of? Um, and
And
that's
we're and I was saying, we're a very interesting community in that in Moorhead, we're really right next to Fargo.
Mhm,
And so we have, certainly not like the Twin Cities. We're certainly not the urban center, but we certainly have a bit more than um, some other areas. So, for example, up in when I lived in Crookston,
mhm.
was a much smaller community, and I really think that connection and um, is important, and helping educate. Education's always been a big thing for me.
Mhm.
So, regardless of whether that is through a formal education system or informal ways of helping educate our community on everything, on the important things. What I was going to say on everything.
My last question for you is, who or what has been a big inspiration to you?
Oh, it is. That is a. I don't know how to answer that. Um, in that, there's been so many people, and in many different ways. So if I start naming people, I know I'll forget somebody. But
Mhm,
I would say definitely where I got to today and who I am today has really come from my parents, and the examples that they shared, the life that they lived, are living, who they are as people, has definitely been instrumental. And I will also say my mom is my board of directors, for my emotional board of support. She's the one that if there's anything that I need, she's there supporting me and saying I can do this, I've got this. And that has been so incredibly valuable to me and needed. And I can't say enough about that.
mm.
So
That's really sweet. And
mhm,
another part of what we were talking about, that importance of your team
your
behind you.
team. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, that is all I have for questions. Is there anything else that you would like to add? Anyway, I guess actually I have one more. How can people find you? And of course, in the written part, we will link to your website and
Great.
anything else that you provide.
Yes. So people can reach out. My email, I can get that too. So it's in the notes too, but it's K Gillette at esourcecoach.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. Come find me. I am also on Facebook, and trying to think what else. I do have a Google business page.
Okay.
Google My Business.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm sure there's others out there. I can't think of them all.
Well, you can just
So
send them over to me
I
if you.
can give you all that. Yep.
Yep.
I Yeah. So most of my work I do off of LinkedIn though. LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay. Awesome.
So
Well,
I will get that to you.
great. Well, thank you so much. I have learned a lot, and I'm super excited to get this
Thank
out.
you. Thank you, Alexa.